I started an online relationship with my boss. I began an online relationship with my boss, unknowingly, of course. Meeting in person? Yeah, that's never going to happen. The kicker? She has no idea that the person she's been flirting with online is actually one of her employees. To make matters worse, the office has been a pressure cooker lately because my boss has been in the foulest mood imaginable. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Everyone feels it, from the star performers to the slackers who normally spend half their day scrolling through social media. Even the laziest employees have put their phones down and started acting like model workers. Nobody wants to risk her wrath. She's been working like a machine lately, overtime, every day, almost as if she's trying to bury herself in work. And since no one dares to leave before she does, we've all been stuck in the office until 11 o'clock or even midnight. By now, I've developed massive dark circles under my eyes and my skin looks like it's plotting its revenge. Everyone's exhausted, but here's the thing. I am probably the only person in the entire company who knows the real reason behind her terrible mood. It is because she just got dumped. And guess what? I am the one who broke up with her. She just doesn't know it yet. Let me explain. This all started with my 2-year-long online relationship. We met on a forum, of all places. She had posted this dramatic message titled, "Why can't I find a partner?" Intrigued, I clicked. The post read like something straight out of a rom-com script. Female, 5 feet 9 inches, 99 pounds, 25 years old. Graduate in management science and engineering from an Ivy League university. Currently a vice president at a Fortune 500 company with a 7-figure salary. I have a house, a car, and I'm beautiful, still single. What am I doing wrong? The comments were brutal, merciless. Everyone seemed to think it was a pathetic attempt at attention-seeking. Comments like, "Seriously, a 25-year-old VP, either it's daddy's company or it's daddy's company," flooded the thread. One user chimed in with, "At least make your lies believable." Amused, I decided to add my 2 cents. I wrote, "Maybe it's your appearance. Why not post a picture?" Then I moved on with my day, not giving it a second thought. Hours later, I received a private message. "Hey, can I send you a picture?" Confused but intrigued, I replied, "Sure." Moments later, a photo popped up, and I nearly spit my coffee all over my keyboard. 5 feet 9 inches? I thought, maybe in her dreams. She looked barely over 5 feet 3 inches. The picture was a poorly framed mirror selfie. Her face was partially obscured, and she wore thick, black-rimmed glasses that looked straight out of a 2000s sitcom. Her outfit? Let's just say she looked like the poster child for outdated fashion. But here's the thing, her features were stunning, gorgeous even. Her lips, her nose, her eyes, everything screamed hidden beauty. She just had no idea how to present herself. For some reason, she also seemed vaguely familiar, though I couldn't quite place her. I decided to help her out. Out of kindness, of course. I zoomed in and out of the picture a few times, studying every detail, and then wrote a reply. "You need to improve your style. Swap the glasses for something more subtle. Or try contacts. Don't take pictures from that angle. Tilt the phone slightly so the charging port points toward you. Change the skirt for something shorter, maybe black. And for the love of all things holy, invest in better lighting." To my surprise, she replied almost immediately, "Thank you so much." I thought that was the end of it, but oh no, it was just the beginning. The next day, she sent me a new photo following all of my advice. Then she did it again and again. By the 5th day, I was already getting annoyed. That is when she asked if she could pay me for my consulting services and requested my personal contact details. At this point, I thought, why not? Money is money. I gave her my private account, thinking it would be a harmless transaction. But then, a friend request popped up, complete with a profile picture that sent a chill down my spine. It was my boss. I froze. My fingers slipped, and before I could stop myself, I accepted the request. Panic set in immediately. I scrambled to adjust my settings to chat-only mode, praying she would not figure out who I was. Her message came through seconds later. "Thank you so much for all your advice. Here is a small token of appreciation." Then she sent me $5,000. $5,000. The note attached simply said, "Gift, no strings attached." I stared at the screen in stunned silence, double-checking her profile picture and the images she had sent me online. There was no doubt about it. My stunning online crush was, in fact, my boss. Well, crap, but I accepted the money anyway. At least she does not know it is me. That thought gave me some relief. After all, I had stepped into this with no intention of making it personal. I just wanted to help her find her footing, to see her confidence grow. And to her credit, she learned quickly. Before long, she was exuding a level of self-assurance that made me genuinely proud. It felt good to see the transformation, but I knew my role was meant to be temporary. I had every intention of quietly stepping out of her life. But then, she caught me completely off guard. One evening, I received an unexpected message, a long, emotional one that could only be described as a love letter. I skimmed through the initial fluff, my eyes landing on the final line. I wanted to tell you this for a long time. I like you. I froze. For a few moments, I stared at the screen, my mind racing for an appropriate response. Finally, I typed back a simple, thanks. Her response came almost immediately. What? I appreciate it, I replied after a long pause, hoping to brush it off. But she was persistent. No, I am serious. I really like you. I value your help and everything you have done for me. Can I at least have a chance to win you over? I did not reply. That night, I could not sleep. Her words replayed in my mind, and I wondered if I had misstepped somewhere along the way. The next morning, the messages began. Good morning, she wrote, followed by updates throughout the day. Heading to work, just arrived at the office, about to start a meeting. It was relentless, as if we were already a couple. Her persistence was, to say the least, unique. I dropped hints here and there, subtly trying to dissuade her, but it only seemed to fuel her determination. A month passed like this, and just when I thought I had seen it all, something unexpected happened. I was scrolling through social media, casually admiring photos of models, when I accidentally shared one with Aurora instead of my friend. Realizing my mistake, I panicked, but it was too late. She had already seen it. Wow, she is gorgeous, I had written, followed by a laughing emoji. Her reply came instantly. I felt a pang of guilt as I stared at her message, unsure of how to explain myself. Before I could respond, she sent another message. Is this your type? Attached was a video. Curious, I opened it. The clip showed her at a gym, not overly muscular but fit, with smooth, pale skin and a subtle V-line. She looked shy, her face growing redder with each passing second of the recording. By the end, she was visibly flustered, and I was mesmerized. Got more. Send me another, I replied without hesitation. There was a pause before she sent another clip, followed by a few more. Each one was more captivating than the last. I could hardly believe that my usually composed and serious boss had this side to her. It was strangely thrilling, almost surreal. Then she sent another message. If you agree to be my boyfriend, I will send you videos like this every day, as many as you want. People chase wealth, power, fame, but beauty? That had always been my weakness. I hesitated, but eventually replied, well, I guess I could consider it. Of course, I set boundaries. No public announcements, no profile picture changes, no video calls, and absolutely no meetings in real life. She was not thrilled with the conditions, but agreed nonetheless. And just like that, our online relationship began. For 2 years, we dated. She continued to refine her style and send me increasingly impressive photos and videos. I offered suggestions and she executed them flawlessly. It was a win-win, or so I thought. But then, she brought up meeting in person. Didn't we agree from the start that this would be strictly online? I reminded her. I know, sorry, but I really want to see you, she replied, sounding hurt. I knew why she was pushing for it. A few days earlier, I had attended an alumni reunion. One of my old classmates confessed her feelings for me afterward. I politely declined, but she bombarded me with messages, angry and insistent. Frustrated, I took screenshots, posted them on social media, and blocked her. Since I was in a relationship, even if only online, Aurora must have seen the post. I figured she wanted to meet to stake her claim publicly, but I had my reasons for keeping things as they were. Reasons I was not ready to share with anyone, not even her. The file was not ready yet. I was still making adjustments, adding little tweaks here and there to polish it up, or at least that was the excuse I gave. It was a weak one, and I knew it the moment the words left my mouth. Aurora narrowed her eyes, the kind of skeptical, piercing look that could drill through layers of lies and deceit. She was clearly not buying it, but after a long pause, she stepped back. All right, she said, her voice clipped and laced with impatience. I'll wait, but be quick. I don't have all night. With that, she moved to the desk next to mine and sat down, crossing her legs in that poised, authoritative way that somehow made her presence feel twice as overwhelming. The air felt heavier with her there, and every second dragged on like an eternity. My fingers flew across the keyboard in a desperate attempt to look busy, but my mind was racing in a completely different direction. I needed to find a way out of this situation fast before she uncovered the truth. In a bid to buy myself some time, I tried a different approach. Aurora, I said cautiously, are you sure you want to review this right now? You look exhausted. Maybe it would be better to go over it with fresh minds in the morning. It was a risky suggestion, but to my surprise, she let out a small sigh and uncrossed her arms. You're right, she admitted, her tone softer now. I am tired, but I hate leaving things unfinished. You know how I am. Her eyes met mine, and for a fleeting moment, her words seemed to carry a weight that went beyond the file. Her intensity, her need to see things through, it wasn't just about work. There was something personal behind it, something simmering just below the surface. Was it stress? Heartache? I couldn't tell, but whatever it was, it gave me the opening I needed. All right, I said, seizing the moment. Give me 5 minutes and I'll send you a preliminary version you can review whenever it's convenient. Without waiting for her response, I opened a new tab and started frantically throwing together a fake draft. A hasty mix of placeholders and generic ideas that I hoped would be just enough to satisfy her for now. It wasn't my best work, but it would buy me some time. Aurora nodded as I handed it over, though her expression remained strangely distant, as if she had more on her mind than the draft in front of her. Then out of nowhere, she spoke. Mason, can I ask you something? Her voice was uncharacteristically low, almost hesitant. Aurora was never hesitant. It caught me off guard. Of course, I replied, bracing myself for some obscure work-related question. But what she said next hit me like a truck. Why did you break up with me? Was it something I did? Was it me? Her eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment, the steely, confident facade she always wore crumbled away. She wasn't Aurora, the driven, no-nonsense boss anymore. She was Aurora, the woman I once knew, the woman I had spent countless hours talking to online, the one who had let me into her world in a way no one else had. And now, she looked hurt, vulnerable. It was a side of her I had never seen before, and it made my throat tighten with guilt. I could have lied, I could have come up with some easy excuse to deflect the question, but something in her expression disarmed me completely. Aurora, it wasn't you, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. I felt like things were moving too fast, like maybe we crossed some boundaries we shouldn't have. She looked down, biting her lower lip in a way that made my heart ache. I see, she said quietly. But you never gave me a chance to fix it. You just cut everything off. Do you know what that did to me? Her words hung in the air like a challenge I couldn't meet. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say anything, she stood up abruptly. It doesn't matter, she said, her tone shifting back to the detached professionalism I was used to. It's in the past. Let's focus on work, okay? But the way she avoided my gaze said otherwise. I handed her the improvised draft, watching anxiously as she scanned through it in silence. Every time her eyes moved across the text, I braced myself for criticism, for anger, for anything that would give me a clue as to what she was thinking. Finally, she looked up. It's not bad, she said. It could work with some adjustments. I'll send it to Kenneth as it is. Good night, Mason. And just like that, she walked out, leaving the room steeped in an oppressive silence. I sat there for a long time, staring blankly at my computer screen, trying to process everything that had just happened. My secret was safe for now, but something told me it wouldn't stay that way for long. Aurora was perceptive. She wouldn't let things go as they were. She wanted answers, and sooner or later, she was going to get them. As I packed up my things, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a message from Aurora. I still think you're hiding something, but whatever it is, I'll find out. I swallowed hard. This wasn't just idle suspicion. Aurora was determined. And I was starting to realize that the consequences of my choices were catching up to me. The next morning, she was different. She didn't glance at me as she usually did. She didn't make her usual sharp remarks about tasks or deadlines. Instead, she was quiet, reserved, calculating. That alone was enough to set off alarm bells in my head. The entire day passed with a gnawing sense of dread in my stomach, a feeling that something was about to happen. And as it turned out, I was right, but I could never have predicted just how far she was willing to go. At the end of the day, while I was tidying my desk and mentally preparing to leave, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Aurora. The words felt heavier than they should have been. I need to talk to you. Conference room, now. The tone was cold, completely unlike the emotional warmth that had defined our recent interactions. My stomach twisted in knots as I stared at the screen, the sinking feeling creeping in that something was terribly wrong. Taking a deep breath to steady myself, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. But deep down, I knew this was not going to end well. The walk to the conference room felt like a slow march toward the inevitable. When I pushed open the door, there she was, Aurora, sitting at the head of the long table. Her laptop was open and she was typing furiously, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She didn't acknowledge me right away, which only added to my anxiety. After a few agonizing seconds, she finally looked up. Her expression was unreadable, a strange mixture of confusion, suspicion, and barely contained anger. With a sharp click, she shut her laptop and crossed her arms, fixing me with an icy stare. "So, Mason," she began, her voice as cold as her expression. "Care to explain this?" I froze in place, the words catching in my throat. "Explain what?" I asked, trying to mask the panic that was bubbling to the surface. Without a word, she picked up her phone, tapped the screen a few times, and slid it across the table toward me. The screen displayed a collection of screenshots, messages, images, and videos exchanged during our 2-year online relationship. Every word I had sent, every piece of advice, every response to her photos, it was all there. But that wasn't the worst part. Among the files, there were screenshots of my social media profile, including details I was certain I had never shared directly with her. "How did you get this?" I asked, my voice trembling. Aurora tilted her head, her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made me squirm. "Mason, I am a vice president at a Fortune 500 company. Did you really think I wouldn't be able to connect the dots? You were sloppy, a detail here, a detail there, and voila." She made a dramatic gesture with her hands as though assembling a puzzle. "Listen, Aurora, I can explain," I started, my voice wavering. "Explain?" she interrupted, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Go ahead, try, because from where I'm standing, this is beyond twisted." She stood abruptly, pacing the room with sharp, deliberate steps. "You knew who I was from the start, and instead of being honest, you kept up this act. You strung me along, manipulating me, watching me while pretending to be someone else. Do you know what that is, Mason? It's not normal, it's obsession." "It wasn't like that," I protested, my voice rising slightly. "I never meant to manipulate you. I got caught in a situation that spiraled out of control. I never planned for this to happen." Aurora let out a bitter laugh, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, didn't you? Then why did you keep going? Why did you accept my trust, my vulnerability? Why did you take my money?" Her words hit me like a slap. My mind raced for a response, but everything I thought of sounded hollow. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. "You know what this makes me think?" she said, leaning forward, her hands resting on the table. "That you have a serious problem, Mason. You built this fake relationship knowing who I was, and never once stopped to consider how it would affect me when the truth came out." "Aurora, I care about you," I said, my voice breaking. "I know I made mistakes, but I never wanted it to end like this. I just wanted to be close to you." "Close to me?" she repeated, her voice rising with disbelief. "Mason, you were close to me the entire time, at work, in meetings, in the halls, and yet you decided to create a fictional version of yourself just to deceive me. That's not care, that's control."
"I never wanted to control you," I pleaded. "I fell for you before I even knew who you were in real life. And when I found out, I was scared. Scared of losing you, scared of ruining everything."
"Well, congratulations, Mason," she said, sitting back down with a sigh. "You managed to ruin everything anyway." Her words were like a knife to the heart. I felt a lump forming in my throat as guilt and regret washed over me. She was right. I had crossed every boundary, let fear and indecision dictate my actions, and now I was paying the price. "So, that's it?" I asked softly, my voice barely audible. "It's over?" Aurora stared at me for what felt like an eternity. Her gaze was no longer filled with anger, but with a sadness that cut even deeper. "I don't know, Mason," she said finally, her tone quieter, but no less firm. "What I do know is that I need space. I need to figure out if I can ever trust you again, or if everything you represent is just a reminder of how I was deceived." She stood, grabbing her laptop and heading for the door. Just before leaving, she paused and glanced back over her shoulder. "One last thing, Mason. I hope you truly understand the impact of your choices, because right now, I don't even know who you really are." The door clicked shut behind her, leaving me alone in the deafening silence of the conference room. I sank into a chair, staring blankly at the empty table. There was no undoing what I had done, no magic words to fix the damage. Aurora was right, my choices had led us to this point. If I ever wanted a chance to earn her trust again, it would take more than words. It would take actions, or maybe I just had to accept that this was the end.